Hello. Wow, such a wondrous glowing lighting. Welcome to Vision Denial. My name is Sam, and this is World Watch and the highlight videos, mashup videos. Over the last 6 weeks, I had made weekly videos where I discuss my thoughts watching every single playoff game, yes, including that one, of all 11 participating regions. Those have come and gone, and I'm still working on some other videos at this moment highlighting each and every team to give a quick introduction. But in the meantime, as I'm still working on that, I thought, not quick, but simpler, I will just put in large videos of the highlights, and I'll be putting a multitude of them, one for all of the playoffs in order of how they appeared, and one for each region in order of how they appeared. If you look at the title, that's the video you're watching. So, without further ado, let's just get to the first one. Starting with, it's the inaugural playoff of Summer 2022 in Europe's LEC. We've got Rogue versus Mad Lions. Incredibly close, excellent series. Now, congrats to Rogue on being the 6th team, asterisk, to qualify for Worlds. This series was incredibly close. And if Mad qualifies from the results of the next LEC series, I wouldn't complain much. Especially given their performance in this series. Both teams have excellent early games with wildly different approaches for them. It was really nice and unique. Solid vision denial and excellent vision control. While neither team screams as particularly super strong in the neutral setup, they are rather serviceable and seem consistent with it. Now, I worry from the side of Mad that any play is overcommitted regularly, leading to situations that can guarantee a back is just immediately lost because they want to guarantee a kill. While Rogue seem to be less and less proactive as the game goes on, really pushing it in the early game and slowing it way down mid to late game. And largely relies on the advantages garnered across the stages to be able to push through the late game just at all. Now, both of these on the international stage will get challenged with relentless fights that will just punish some of these aspects of the play. But aside from that, it's usually just a very narrow window of play that isn't usually seen until much of the late game. And both of these teams usually are very good on staying within their pacing. Also, Rogue, disrespectful drafts like that will cost you way more going into the international stage. Just saying. Now, shout out to Larson and Comp, who maximized damage during a lot of these fights while playing with a lot of safety. It was really satisfying to see how safe they were able to play and still maximize the effort, their impact. Let's head off to the next series. We head off for the second series of the upper bracket in the LEC from Europe with G2 Esports versus Misfits Gaming. And you know what? Congrats on G2 for being the first team to qualify for Worlds, and by extent, Mad Lions is the 7th team because of the results of this series. Or I previously didn't like the idea of them qualifying without playing a single game. Now that I've seen them play games, this is fine, as the G2 we see now are early game giants. There is a satisfying set of chaotic plays out of them that leaves you entranced and hard to follow, as they pull and prod all over the mat, really stretching their opponent out. That said, the chaos does have a method, with some strong vision play and teamfight coordination. I didn't see the same kind of worries that I would usually look out for as I had seen with the G2 of old, where if Caps wasn't on point all the time, the team tended to just kind of falter. For now. Now, their ability to take a lead and snowball it is excellent, and honestly, if this is to be expected as they head into Worlds, there should be no issues. There may be some concerns regarding their late game application against teams in the international stage, but as far as it's concerned, they're snowballing excellently to a point where there's no need to think about this now, not until we see how it looks like against other teams. Misfits, on their part, had excellent drafts, much more consistent and better than those of G2. Game 3 was a little bizarre. Solid vision play and an understanding of where their win conditions lie. The coordination isn't always there, and the rookie roster seems to have some confidence to build up, as dedicating to a play is kind of hit or miss during the series. I could see Misfits securing the last slot at Worlds, but as of now, they are strong contenders that are rather inconsistent. Shout out to Yankos and Caps, who honestly played out of their minds at all stages to balloon any leads they had. Holy crap, were they good this series. Let's take a look at the next one. It's time for the lower bracket playoff. From Europe's LEC, we've got Fnatic, the Giants, and Excel, newcomers. And this is our second reverse sweep. And the LEC often produces some of my favorite series during playoffs. And this is for sure one of them. It's such a shame that the format is what it is, because I would have preferred to have both of these teams move on to Worlds, given the kind of play that we saw from them. For Excel, the early game coordination, pressure, tempo, and vision was unparalleled. Now, that isn't to say that Fnatic were slouches, by no means. This just was a solid set of games from both sides. But as the series goes on, Fnatic managed the second reverse sweep of the summer and showed that Excel only really excelled in the early to mid game and struggled to show consistent success in the late game, whether it was from map movement, neutral setup, or team fighting. Which, by the way, so good from both sides. There's a lot of really interesting angles that go off in the first 4 games. And it's really a large shame that the time that went into the series, the 5th game, both teams looked spent and were inconsistent. Anyways, Fnatic, for their part, require a lot of momentum in-game and series to get going, which concerns me. I'm really concerned by their approach of the early game and how much they were willing to just forego a lot of neutral objectives to avoid fights that could get worse for them. That said, their vision play and late game decision coordination was excellent, and I think a large contributor to the reverse sweep itself, outside of the fatigue. The duos from both teams deserve a shout out, but in all honesty, just because of the format, shout out to Upset and Razark, who really maximize the efficacy of the drafts in every way imaginable. Take a look at the next series. We're back to Europe with LEC's round 2 of the lower bracket. We've got Fnatic versus Misfits Gaming. And congratulations to Fnatic on being the 16th team to qualify for Worlds. And a moment's silence to Misfits, who played their last game as an organization. Alright, moment's done. There is nothing more certain than death, taxes, and Fnatic making it to Worlds. Fnatic sped run through this entire series with a clear understanding of where they wanted to put their win conditions and how to get there. Misfits, for their part, did not look prepared to confront the aggression brought to them. That said, Fnatic was not efficient and often found themselves to be overzealous, cocky, leading to wild and chaotic fights that Misfits took full advantage of. And when Misfits had control of the tempo and of a lead even, they navigated the map in fairly excellent ways. The issue really comes from the hesitation and limitation of the drafts that they put up. Neon is still the main focus, and if it wasn't ahead in some way, then Misfits still struggled to get around any of the proper priorities. Fnatic were incredibly entertaining with how they outmaneuvered, but this looked like a case of that they could do it this way because the plan of attack specifically targeted Misfits' weaknesses outright. And if Fnatic play to attack the weaknesses of Mad Lions on their next series, then this should be fun. And if it's just them playing fast and loose out of a skill check, then I have concern for their prospect at Worlds, really. It's an unfortunate situation that this is the series that Misfits have to leave their mark. But one hell of a mark it was. Shout out to Razark and Wonder, who really outmaneuvered all of Misfits. Let's take a look at the next series. We head off into the upper bracket semifinals for Europe's LEC, where we've got G2 versus Rogue. And God, G2, what a terrifying team. G2 find ways to keep tempo control no matter their position. Solid vision, excellent team fight coordination, smart map movement. They've got everything and anything you want in a particular team at this moment. The whole package. I think their drafts and overconfidence will get punished when they head to Worlds, but right now, no team seems to know how to handle them in the LEC. I like seeing games like this because even the slower ones, G2 can show what a low-kill, high proactive team looks like. It's not about just getting kills themselves or doing like gank plays. It's about how you collect resources that matters more than just waiting for neutrals to spawn and either expect a fight or just securing it without contest. G2 right now show me that they look like a top 4 teams at Worlds, especially if they keep up this kind of form in their next series in the finals for the LEC. Rogue, for their part, looked mostly lost, disorganized, and uncoordinated, especially during team fights. The first few minutes in the early game for them are pretty well planned out, and they have a solid idea of what their win conditions are, but the lack of proactivity really hurt, especially against a team like G2, who, when you just let them have control of the tempo, really run away with it. Rogue will have a chance to avoid play-ins at Worlds in their next series, but like if the lack of proactivity stays as it is, then it might be really rough for them. Shout out to Targamas and Caps, who really manipulated the team fights in rather dizzying ways. Let's take a look at the next series. Round 3 of the lower bracket in Europe's LEC, we've got Fnatic versus Mad Lions. What about that game 1? Of all the ways that Fnatic put up a statement that they should be feared, the 19 minutes and 32 second game is for sure one of them. That game, however, is emblematic of the good and bad that comes from this squad. Fnatic have a very well coordinated effort for vision, dives, neutrals, and team fights. Super clean. Asterisk. Once someone is in, they're all in. And as great as that is, it's clear that the second that one person is a little out of line and their opponent is going to punish them, they're just going to double down, though. And that can make it even worse. This kind of play is great when super ahead, but while behind, it just makes the games end faster for teams who have a lot of proactivity themselves. Which leads us to the slow to act but quick to react Mad Lions. Mad is a more consistent with solid vision and wave manipulation kind of team, but they can't really keep up with Fnatic, who are a team that has 0 breaks overall. The level of proactivity that Fnatic has dwarfed whatever Mad could do to respond for it in situations where Fnatic were far ahead. Which doesn't help that Mad is a much slower team overall, because this kind of consistency that they showed us usually comes at the cost of a lot of proactivity, especially when behind. Both of these teams show problems that are going to be very easily exploited come Worlds unless they find ways to course correct. Mad with the lack of proactivity early in, and Fnatic with overcommitting so harshly. The faster teams are going to have their way with Mad, and the clean, measured, proactive teams are going to be more consistently punishing Fnatic for their approach. Shout out to Upset and Razark, who played so excellently in the early and late games to navigate so many of these fights. It's really nice. Take a look at the next series. And we head off to Europe's LEC semifinal, where we've got Rogue versus Fnatic. And something really clicked in Rogue and found the secret formula on how to stop Fnatic. The series showed that Fnatic very much relied on their early game strength, and that teams will meet them on that front so that they could excel and balloon that. And honestly, it worked for most of the time. Razor has been the stronger jungler during playoffs, but the adaptation from Malrong to avoid any unnecessary contest and really focus on the solo lanes, especially Odoamne and the Odoamne and Wonder matchup, made a huge difference. And it really helped that the solo laner, or that the laners in general, were really up to task to nullify any attempts from Razork to influence that particular matchup. Both teams had strong vision application, if not slightly shallow at times, and good understanding of neutral setups, but Fnatic lacked the restraint as to when they have to contest something. And when they were really far down in gold and pressure, they even wouldn't attempt any strong contest of some sort. It was really baffling. So the Fnatic that we saw coming from the lower bracket is still there, especially if Game 1 is any indication. And the fact that they are in the play-in stage for Worlds feels like formality at best, as those teams should find them incredibly scary. And while Rogue, I don't think, will have the bigger splash on the international stage, what I saw here was some genuine solid adaptation from them, and that right there is the hallmark of a fantastic team ready for Worlds. I just wish they were more consistent with their proactivity, as at times it seems like it's more of they would more answer to Fnatic's movement than just kind of apply their own, or apply their own strategies right off the bat. Shout out to Larson and Comp, who controlled the space and deleted so many people during these fights. Holy cow, were they ever so confident in these. Let's take a look at the next series. It's the grand finals of Europe's LEC, and also a rematch. I love these so much. Where we've got Rogue versus G2. Holy shit, this series was awesome. Now, everyone thought that Rogue would lose to Fnatic, right? And when they didn't, everybody thought that they would get crushed by G2. Whoever this Rogue is, I like it. Much more consistent around neutrals, a much better early game approach, and better wave manipulation overall. And the flexibility is still there for this team. Now, in situations like this, it's easy to think, well, maybe G2 dropped the ball and Caps couldn't play to his standard. No, not at all. And that's what's so impressive about this. The early game from G2 is on par, if not better than Rogue's at some points. They also have solid approach to neutrals, better vision play overall, and Caps was more on form than ever, as he has been the entire playoffs. There's no doubt that the G2 that we've seen previously is still the same team in this series than in the others. We just got a massive upgrade from Rogue. It's also in situations like this, though, that I have to put on my skeptic hat. and wonder if Rogue will be able to continue this momentum heading into Worlds. If they do, then fantastic. This team looks like a top 4 team. Otherwise, if we get pre-Fnatic Rogue, we might find ourselves with a team set to face challenges beyond their capabilities, possibly. I'm hoping for the former, as that will make Worlds an interesting event, especially. I do think that Rogue are still a little too passive in the mid game, or at least in the mid to late game, and it allowed G2 to find a lot of chances to regain control during that time. But just from the sheer leads developed early, it usually didn't matter in this series. But it will matter on the international stage. Do keep that in mind. Shout out to Malrang, who really came back to a form. I haven't seen him in a long time. I really liked it. I missed this Malrang. And Comp, who took matters into his own hands to close out every game. It's really nice. And with that, let's take a look at the next series, also the last series of the summer 2022. Damn, that was a journey. That's 94 playoffs, or depending on the region that you were watching, anywhere between 5 to 15 best of 5s. If you want to watch from the other regions, or you really want to watch the supercut on either side, I don't remember which side I'm going to put it on, you can just watch those there. I want to hear your thoughts also on like which one of these were your favorite, what teams you think you're going to be like rooting for, just anything and everything down below. I'll be again making some videos further down the line, or should have some videos produced further down the line with all of the magic that comes with it. So keep your eyes peeled. And with that, I'll see you all next time for when I do the introductions of all the different teams. Ciao. Thank you all for watching.